How to destroy your fear of cold calling, guaranteed. Guys, it's Ginn, and today we're talking all about cold calling. And I hear you guys always talking about the fear. I'm going to show you how to evaluate it, how to confront it, and most importantly, how to beat it so you can regularly cold call if you desire. Before I get into it, do me a favor, make sure you smash that like button. You hit that subscribe notification button so I can continue to give you the best up-to-date information from a wholesaler that actually still wholesales. So cold calling. So many people get like this chill that runs down their back and it freaks them out. Now, full disclosure, I didn't start out cold calling. Number one, because I didn't understand it. Number two, nobody ever guided me through it and explained like what the purpose of it was and why it was so great. And if somebody just took the time to show it to me, I would have probably knocked it out of the park with cold calling. So what I want to do is go over how you can deal with this phobia, this fear of cold calling. And we're going to break it down in the first section. Then we're going to walk through on how to fix it. And third, I'm going to give you tips, practical tips on how you can be effective with cold calling, on how it works in my business, and how you can get the same benefits of cold calling in your business. Let's just talk about the raw fears of cold calling. There's not one that you guys haven't told me about. So number one is your biggest concern is rejection. Well, I'm here to tell you, rejection, guys, it's inevitable in cold calling. And actually, I guarantee you're going to get it. So here's what, let's talk about. If you have a fear of cold calling because of rejection, here's how most people react to it. You just avoid it, or you stall, you procrastinate. But for the most part, you avoid it because if I don't call someone, they can't reject me. And I'm here to tell you, you are going to have problems with that. So how do we overcome that fear alone? Number one, I'm here to tell you, just do it. Accept you're going to get rejected. Once you know you're going to get rejected by a big portion of people, it's not as scary and as intimidating. Honestly, if you accept rejection and understand it's part of the business, you'll do great in wholesaling. The reality is cold calling is the number one prospecting tool from an efficiency and scalability standpoint. And so you're going to get a lot more rejection there. So most people are scared to death because the rejection volume is so high, and you have to expect rejection and just find a few that want to work with you. If you look at cold calling from that instead of a fear of rejection to all I need to do is find a few yeses, it is much more doable. The second biggest fear people have is you care what everybody thinks about you. And if that is your fear, like I'm so worried about what people are going to say to me, or you let people judge you, is guess what? You're going to be a people pleaser the rest of your life. Or you just avoid doing the cold calls anyways. So understanding that the only ones you care about are the ones that want to work with you. It doesn't mean they're bad people. How many times have you got a cold call that you've rejected somebody? You do it, I do it, we all do it. It's just a numbers game. So stop taking it personally because it is not personal. You have no idea what type of day that person's got, what's going on in their life. And I want you to understand it has no bearing on the rest of your day, week, month, or the rest of your life. So keep in mind, it is their issues. Don't let their issues become your issues, or that is going to stop you in your tracks. Guys, what people think of you, let it go, because you only care about what your family thinks about you and what the sellers that are highly motivated that want to do a deal with you, because those are the people that are going to truly change your life. Everybody else is a hater or a naysayer, and they're in the mediocrity of life. And why would you expect them to give you positive vibes when you call you? They are going to tear you up. Expect it, but stop caring about it. When cold calling's over, walk away from them, because you can't let that attitude affect the rest of your day and especially your family's life. So the next one I had on my list was insults. People like, I get insulted, or people say bad words to me. And if that is your fear, you're just going to avoid it. And by avoiding it, you're never going to find the yeses of the people that are looking to sell their houses. So remember, once again, it's their issue, not yours. If they're going to insult you, it's a reflection of them, not you. I wish everyone a blessed day, no matter what they say to me. And I move on with my life because I'm not taking this personally. Here's another one. Well, Rick, what if they hang up on me? Okay, they hang up on you. It's sales 101. People hang up on you all the time. So how do you avoid hangups? You don't do the phone calls. If I don't do the phone calls, you can't hang up on me. But guess what? You know how you fix this? You just call people like crazy. I've already told you this is a volume game. To get past your fear of hangups, have 100 people hang up on you. It will cure your phobia really quick. Guys, this is a volume game. You got to call like crazy. I guarantee people are going to hang up on you. The last one I had on my list here is the anxiety of the cold call. And I got to tell you, this is one of the biggest problems with wholesalers. And I'm here to tell you, if you understand what anxiety is, it's much easier to deal with. Anxiety is the fear of dealing with the future, particularly in like doing the cold call. And what a lot of wholesalers do is they schedule cold calling, they keep pushing the time back because the anxiety builds. Your heart rate starts racing. You start sweating like crazy and you feel like you're going to throw up. Remember what I told you in wholesaling. The more uncomfortable you get, the more progress and the more money you're going to make. So if you're feeling tingly in your stomach, you're sweating like crazy, and you're really uncomfortable, you're in the right place. Best way to cure anxiety is just do it. So if you have anxiety, it is the biggest form of procrastination because you want to delay it. But in reality, when you delay it through procrastination, the anxiety gets worse. So you're feeding your anxiety by not doing it. The biggest cure you can do to fix anxiety is just do the thing that fears you the most. I know it sounds crazy, but I need you to get uncomfortable. Understanding anxiety is your subconscious mind trying to prevent you from going to an uncomfortable place. But the reality is you need to go to that uncomfortable place to get to the point you want to get. When I have anxiety in my life, I just learned to deal with it head on. It's just easier because the problem's not going to go away. It'll just grow and fester, and it grows inside your mind, and you're going to feed it with procrastination. The easiest way to fix anxiety is just do it, because a lot of times after you make those 2 or 3 phone calls, or maybe it's even an appointment you're putting off, once you do it, you go, dude, that wasn't so bad. I had it all worked up in your mind. Your fears are so much worse than the reality of the situation. Do not let anxiety take you out. Go attack and just rip through your phone calls. So the next section I want to attack of the biggest fear of cold calling is, why do we have a fear of cold calling? So we've already talked about the fears of cold calling, what you normally do when you get that fear, and then I taught you the ways to overcome it. So what we have to do is we have to remind ourselves, why are we doing cold calls in the first place? Number one is the most efficient, most scalable, fastest way to connect with people without getting in a car and wasting tons of your time. Because you can get through people, and if they don't want to work with you, you just keep moving on until you find the ones that can work with you. You can rip through 1,000 people on a phone so much faster than you could ever do in person or in a letter. That's why cold calling works. So you've got to understand your why. Why did you get into wholesaling? Either you wanted a change in your family's life, your corporate job was driving you nuts like mine was, and you want to become financially free, and more importantly, become free with your time. So you probably took your why and you wrote it on the bathroom mirror with an erasable marker like you do on a whiteboard. And that's great because you get to see it. Now, I believe everybody's why is from like their belief. Wholesaling is going to change my life. It's going to change my family's life. It's going to give me the financial freedom and the freedom I desire. And I get with that. But here's what happens. A lot of you guys go on the cold calling and wholesaling with a belief, which is your why, but you have no conviction. And you've got to get conviction. And conviction is basically the cement foundation of when somebody tries to shoot holes in your belief, you don't listen to them. You just keep moving forward no matter what they say. So when people have conviction, especially when it comes to cold calling and wholesaling, they are usually completely unstoppable. So if you have a belief in your why in wholesaling, but you don't have the conviction, you've got to solve that now. And conviction just goes like this. I'm going to cold call to get my first 5 deals. I don't care how many calls it takes. I'm doing this because I know along the way, as I do this, I'm going to get more experience. I'll get more comfortable talking to people. I'll learn how to handle all objections. My confidence going to soar and increase. And guys, this is what we call the journey of wholesaling. It doesn't matter if you learn this business for free, like from me and Zach through freewholesaling.com, which we give you all the tools to do everything for free, or you decide to use a paid guru or whatever you want. You can't skip the journey. You can't buy your way out of the journey. You're still going to have to make the calls. And that is the difference between a successful cold caller and one that just, I'm going to try cold calling. What I need you to do, if you have a belief on why you're doing wholesaling, I need you to just rip through your conviction and get it set in stone. Conviction doesn't let your parents, your sister, your brother, your colleagues, your friends tell you like, why are you doing this whole thing, wholesale thing? Why don't you just go out with us? It's easier, it's comfortable, it's safe. We don't want safe. We want freedom. And to get freedom, you're going to have to go through some difficult roadblocks. Cold calling is definitely one of them. The next thing is you got to have a little bit of a gut check if you're cold calling. The reality is if you're cold calling, either you love it or you've decided it's the most efficient, scalable way to get through as many leads as wholesaling as possible. Or let's be honest, some of you are on very limited budgets. You can't hire people to cold call. You have limited financial resources and you've chose cold calling because you want to dig yourself out of a hole. And I commend you for it. I think it's incredible. But the reality is knowing you're in this hole, the only way to get out of this hole is to be successful in cold calling. So it means you have to double down, triple down, quadruple down on cold calling because this is your path to get out of it by doing as many many wholesale deals as possible to build up your bank account, to give you options so you can incorporate direct mail and a lot of other advanced strategies so you don't have to cold call, or you can hire cold callers. And the truth of the matter is, if you put in thousands of hours cold calling yourself and you did like my son did, then you can easily manage people and you can manage them very effectively because you know what it's like to get into the fight of cold calling. So remind yourself, if you're doing this because it's on a limited budget, you don't have a car, or you're working virtually, dig yourself out of that hole so you can get the financial resources so you have options moving forward in wholesaling. What I'm saying is, use this as your jet fuel to get where you want to go in wholesaling. It is not a penalty. It is an opportunity. And if you look at it like that, just step up and just do it. So let's talk about the questions we ask ourselves when we do wholesaling. So many people go, hey, Rick, how many cold calls do I have to do to be successful in wholesaling? And I'm here to tell you, it is the wrong type of question. And if you're asking me that question, I know your conviction is not set in your head, because conviction says, I don't care how many calls I'm going to make. I'm going to figure it out. And if I get it done in 100 calls or I get it down in 100,000 calls, I'm getting it done because my conviction will not waver. So here's the two things you need to focus on instead of asking questions like, how many calls do I have to make before I get a deal? There's just too many variables to nail it down. And honestly, you need the experience to get to a level to where you can get one deal out of every 500 or 1,000 calls. First thing is focus on the quality of your list, especially government list. Remember, wherever there's smoke, there's fire. Look for the most highly motivated list, and that's where the best opportunities are going to be. And that's going to be more of a direct path through cold calling. And number two, focus on your conviction. What are you willing to endure to be a successful wholesaler? Are you willing to make 10,000 or 100,000 cold calls? If you have a limit on that, I'm going to question your conviction, because there is no set number I can tell any wholesaler, make 1,000 calls, you're going to get a deal. I've seen people make 12,000 calls. I've seen people make 2 phone calls. It's crazy how it works. Here's the difference is, the more calls you make, the more opportunities you have to get a great wholesale deal. So let me share a couple tips that we use in our industry, meaning our business, for allowing our cold callers to be successful. Number one, understand cold calling is a disqualifying event. Meaning, if I talk to 10 people, probably 9 people are going to kick me to the curb. I'm okay with it. I'm prepared for it. Remember, we talked in the beginning, expect rejection and sort through it. Now, don't be so eager that you think everyone's going to reject you. Someone's going to want to talk to you about it. And those people we pull out of the pile and we take our time with. But when we're going through and making 100 calls, understanding 90 to 95 of them are going to be rejected, and that's okay. Don't spend a lot of time on people that don't want to do business with you. Just politely move on and don't take it personally. Number two, once you get to the qualifying section and they pass the disqualifying, make sure you use your qualifying factors, MCTP. If you don't know what that is, go over to freewholesaling.com. We teach you how to ask the right qualifying questions. So when you get started cold calling, I'm going to give you the specific tips that usually make a huge difference that a lot of people don't think of. Number one, wear a smile when you talk to people. Remind yourself that a smile, remember, they can't see you. They can't see the inflections in your face. They can only hear the inflections in your voice, and people can see a smile. Don't ask me how, but when people are smiling, it just feels like a different conversation. You have to understand that. The second one is, I want you guys to use time blocks. So if we know an employee goes to work for 8 hours and they're only effective for in 2-hour increments at the most, set up 2 hours cold calling and shut off your phone. Lock the door. Don't let anyone interrupt you, and just go hard as you can for 2 hours, because 2 hours of concentrated work time is going to be more effective than an employee working 8, 10, or 12 hours a day. Use your block time and then take a break in between so you can refresh, grab a bite to eat, return phone calls, and then set up your cold calling for another 2-hour block in the evening, and just go all in. When you're cold calling, you got to be in the moment. You got to be in a rhythm, and you have to be in the mood to do it. 2-hour blocks are most effective. Don't ever do more than 3, because most people burn out after 3 hours of cold calling. And remember, guys, it's a numbers game. At the end of the day, all cold calling is a numbers game. You have to stack the numbers in your favor. The more leads you call on, the better your chance of getting a great wholesale deal. The less you call on, the less of a chance. Don't forget that. And last but not least, you watching this video, you have to believe in yourself. You're just having conversations with people. The worst that can happen is they hang up, they tell you something bad, or they don't do business at all with you. You're fine with that. Accept that. The fact that people think they can just call 10 people and get 10 people to say yes is mind-blowing to me. That's not how life works out. So I believe in you. I know Zach believes in you. The question is, do you believe in yourself? You have to answer yes to that question to be a successful cold caller, because at the end of the day, all we're doing is just a bunch of phone calls, and they're a bunch of little mini conversations. And all I'm trying to do is find the people that want to sell their house. I know that 95% of the people are going to reject me, and I'm okay with that. But because I believe in myself, I know this is going to work, because I'm not the first person to cold call. I won't be the last. And I know this is the most efficient and effective way to scale my wholesaling business. So guys, let me know, are you going to get past your fear of cold calling? And are you going to use the tips I used in this video? Guys, I've watched people cold call for 20 years. I've really focused in the last 6 years on cold calling, and the tips I'm sharing with you are my life experience of cold calling. I didn't start out cold calling, and the only reason is because I didn't understand it and I didn't see the value in it, and it was a big mistake when I got started out of wholesaling. But I still was very successful. If you're starting out now, please consider cold calling, because I think it's one of the greatest ways to grow your business, especially if you're on a limited budget. So if you got value from this video, do me a favor, make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe notification so others just like you can get up to date on the latest wholesaling information. Guys, I appreciate you. This is Rick Ginn, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.